Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn as we overlook Jalisco, Guadalajara, Mexico. I say that every time I get a chance. Good, yeah. There's some news that the locals here might be very interested in that's broken since we last spoke. Reynoso says that Garcia has reached out about the potential of being trained by the Reynosos again. Canelo's commented on it. And then I'm hearing rumors that there might even be an opportunity for Garcia to sign with a new promoter. Have you heard any of these talks?
Not really. I mean, it's the rumor mill of boxing. I saw Eddie Reynoso comment yesterday. I mean, I can only talk to you, I mean, from the Ryan Garcia free agency stuff, I don't really know. I mean, if he's a free agent, would we talk? Yeah, of course. I mean, he's a huge star. Regarding training with Eddie Reynoso, I think Eddie Reynoso is arguably the best trainer in the world. But I think Ryan has to get his head around giving his trust and soul to a teacher, you know? Mm. And I feel like, and again, this is just as a fan, really, like I see a lot of the stuff Ryan does, you know, with his brother and stuff like that on the pads. And it's like, I don't know how much input Joe Goose and those people actually have. You know, if you're training with Eddie Reynoso, you don't mess around, right? You don't skip a day of training. You don't do your own thing in one session with somebody else, you know? Mm. And you shouldn't. If you're blessed to be working with a teacher like that, you give your everything. Like Saul, whatever Eddie says, that's the response. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you get the most out of a fighter. And I'm not sure whether Ryan has ever had that relationship with a trainer. And I think it would do him good.
Canelo has now famously said in just 24 hours, I've seen it everywhere, that shot hurt. I think Canelo knows a lot about body shots. But we as fighters, we must get up. The kind of commitment you're talking about in the gym, do you think that Ryan put that forward in the fight?
People have asked me all week, did Ryan Garcia quit in the fight? I hate the conversation because any normal person wouldn't have got up. Do you know what I mean? I would have rolled around on the floor to make sure that I didn't get up, right? But you have to listen to Canelo Alvarez because he's a fighter. The reality is, could he have got up? You know he could have because he got up at 10 and walked straight to the corner. Should he have got up? In a sensible person's world? No. He's got a rib injury. He's hurt. He's winded. Don't be silly. Stay down. These aren't normal people. Would Canelo Alvarez have got up? What do you think? You know what I mean? Like if you had to have a bet on it, in that situation, he would have got up. You get up, even if you're bent over and you can't stand up straight, you get up. But you can never, in my opinion, I can certainly never criticize a fighter for not wanting to continue. The word quit has various meanings. One of them is no longer wanting to continue. And he no longer wanted to continue because he knew he had an injury, he knew he was hurt, and he chose not to continue. I don't think you can ever criticize someone for that. But in a fighter's world, a fighter's mentality, he could have got up, but chose not to.
Well, he's choosing to continue clearly with a shakeup in his career, being that yet another trainer, even if it's back to the Reynosos. Again, this is a big if, I recognize, but if he's looking to make even a bigger change promotionally wise, how does, in Eddie Hearn's mind, Ryan Garcia continue with his career?
I mean, he'd be on the same platform, so... You know, obviously everyone's on DAZN. I think that signing with promoters has a lot to do with trust and a lot to do with your trust in that person to move your career efficiently and effectively. And I think we do that very well. But I think Ryan needs to get the structure right before, and I don't know anything about his promotional situation, but I think that he needs the training structure right. I think Ryan is a tremendous fighter. He's a huge star, great kid. But I just feel like he needs that structure in training where he, like I said, you give your soul. A bit like AJ with Derek James. I feel like this is the first time where he's actually turned around since Rob McCracken and gone, do you know what? I'm all yours. Teach me. I believe in you. I trust in you. You know? And that makes that when you talk about getting up, yeah, that kind of relationship, that kind of belief. When you go on your knee and the ref gets to 5 or 6 and you go and look at your corner and he goes up when you get to 7. Mm-hmm. You don't go, no, you get up. And that closeness is what Ryan needs, in my opinion. Again, just me, like from the outset, because I don't know about his relationship with Joe Goose. Just the perception I have. I want to see him have that bond with a trainer where he really believes in him.
You know, just on the roof of this same building, a few moments ago, I talked to Conor Benn, finally, after some time. And he got emotional. He got quite serious, in fact. And I asked him about who he leaned on in that moment when it seemed everybody had abandoned him. And you were the first name out of his mouth. You talk about this bond between you. You even got like emotional about that bit of it. Did you realize when you were doing that how much he needed it? And what did it mean to you to be there for someone? Because I'm going to get a lot of stick even for not raking you over the coals in this moment about what's happened.
Mate, I've been raked over the coals for 8 months.
On his behalf?
Yeah.
So why?
Because I believe him. And I believe in him 100% wholeheartedly. And it would have been so easy for me to hang him out to dry. But you have to ask yourself, you know, in those moments, you have to be true to yourself and say, I've known this kid a long time. I know the people around him, right? I know how meticulous he is with everything. I know that he's asked me to add additional testing into his contracts and all that kind of stuff, right? And when I see the kid break down in front of me and I see his dad, and I'm not talking about once, I'm talking about 12 times, I've seen him with an opportunity to get out of this situation by not being truthful. And for that not to be an option at all. I am not lying. I am not saying, my wife's on fertility tablets. Sorry, I took that. Could have done that 3 months, no problem. No, I'm not lying. I'm not going to lie. And I had to make a decision. Do I believe this kid? And in my heart of hearts, 100%. And it's been an absolute disaster for me, this whole thing. And people said to me, why are you backing him? Just say it, because I'm not a piece of shit. You know? If I wanted to, I go, do you know what? Like, people have said to me, mate, stop. Just say it's not your fight. You know, the authorities do it. You asked me a question. I believe in his innocence. So I could have easily just hung him out to dry like everybody else. And it's not about money. Oh, yeah, you're only doing that because of the money. What money? You can't even fight, you know, in England. So it's not like, you know, we lost a fortune on that fight and we may never get it back. And I got money. And I don't need the aggravation. But I speak out what I believe in. And I speak from my heart. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I don't believe in him. And I'm not going to lie to you and say, sorry, mate, you're on your own. Because also, whatever you think of Conor Benn, as a fighter, you need to know I got your back. You know what I'm saying? And I would, if I felt that he cheated, I would never talk to him again. Especially, you know, through his prevailing of his innocence. Never. I'd be fucking disgusted if I believed this, and if I found out that he cheated. And I am 100% sure he didn't. There's no reason for me to go through this aggravation. You know? It's been 8-9 months of shit times for me in this respect. Think of how it's been for him. Now, some people might be watching this going, well, he shouldn't have done it in the first place. He has been a broken man. I'm 43 years old. I get a lot of stick. I've been doing it for 12 years. People have been abusing me for years. I've been outspoken for years. I've wound people up. Sometimes I deserve it. Sometimes I don't. They bounce off me like bullets. This has been tough. This is a young man, an emotional young man. He has been absolutely broken to the bone by this. Every day he's training. Sparred 10 rounds yesterday. Going to a local gym in Guadalajara. Anyone got sparring cruiserweights. His whole life he's boxing. It's been taken away from him. Now, I'm not expecting you to feel sorry for him because he's in a situation, tough shit. You've got to deal with it. But I believe him. And I haven't been prepared to sit back and not have his back when I believe him. If I didn't believe him, I'd hang him out to dry. You know what I mean? I'd say, I don't want to talk to you again. Go away. But I've made my decision and I stand by it.
He talked about some of those really dark times, especially right after the fight was canceled, those first 3 months. He said, you know, he thought about just packing it in, going to Australia, forget about boxing, like this is done. Did you talk to him during that time? How much did you
talk to him all the time.
Get him out of that mindset?
I worried about what he was going to do. You know, I think in that situation, Conor's a very emotional kid. Boxing is his life, he's everything. He puts everything in. And no one believed him, right? He didn't know what his future held. And that was the thing that hurt him the most, was that no one believed him, you know, outside of the people that really know him. And he really struggled. And I worried about him, you know, daily at times. Because, you know, when someone's that low, you know, anything can happen. And the way he's come back, the way even now, like I said, training like he's in full camp, right? Sparring 10 rounds yesterday. No date at the moment. Lots of uncertainty. You know, 1 week, he's got this. Then an article comes out. Then the board are saying this. Then UCAD are suspending him. Then, you know, 1 week we're on the verge of a fight in Abu Dhabi. Then, you know, and as a fighter, you can't prepare like that. But this kid has stayed in the gym. He's just, and every day, myself or Frank or someone from the office has to say to him, stay with it. Do you know what I mean? Stay with it. And he's a very religious guy. And I think his faith has helped him in this situation. But it's so difficult because every door slams in your face. And it's like, when am I going to get a chance? When am I going to get justice? When am I going to get... And ultimately, that is... If I'm a believer, if he's telling the truth and he's as good a person as I believe he is, everything's going to work itself out. You know what I mean? Because you get what you deserve. And it's been a really frustrating time. And I'd like to say the light's at the end of the tunnel, but I just don't know. You know, you've got to remember, Rahim, he says to me every day, and he like, when am I fighting? When am I fighting? And it's not just as easy to go, yeah, mate, I could put him on any card in the world. Do you know what I mean? But it's not that easy. It's a really, really complex situation with lawyers and confidentiality and suspensions and testing companies and that. And everyone's got it in for him. Everyone. You ain't going to get any fair hearings where this is involved because he's done a lot of things wrong. And he's chose to do things his own way because he feels like he's got nothing to hide. So he comes out, speaks to someone, gives a shit interview because, you know, they want to hear this and that. And the lawyers might say to him, don't, what? And he's like, what? I don't, you know, very bad time.
He is a very religious guy. And he said that even during that time, his religion failed him. He started to question that. And to be clear, when you say that, you know, anything can happen and you were worried, we're talking about you're worried that he could take his own life in this dark time. Is that fair?
Yeah, look, I think sometimes that's, I'm not saying you're using that terms for clickbait, but like that is a big talking point. Let's just say when someone is as low as he was and is as emotional as he was, you worry about what they might do. You know, I don't like talking about taking your own life and stuff like that, but when you're on rock bottom and you feel there's no way out, that's when people do things, you know, of desperate measures. And he was in that place, you know, and people said to me in his circles, they're worried about that, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, I feel like that's such a sensitive subject, right. But again, that kind of thing happens when you're at rock bottom, and a lot of times you don't see it. You know, I know people who have taken their own life, who, you know, you hear that news and you go, what? You know, sometimes people don't realise how low people are. And a fighter especially will always try. I mean, he's a very emotional guy. He shows his emotions, Conor, quite a lot. But still, you'd never, you know, AJ the same. Look at after the Usyk fight. You know, I've never seen AJ show 1 ounce of emotion like that. All of a sudden, I'm sitting next to him in the press conference. He's breaking down in tears. I'm like, what? like, and then you realise, wow, what must this guy be going through to do that in front of the world? So, you know, but again, it's difficult because people go, well, it's his own problem, you know, it's his own problem. But then I say, you know, again, I know I back him. What if he's telling the truth? You know, how tough a period would this have been? Telling the truth, being innocent, and have to go through all of this. And I believe him, so therefore I back him.
I get it that not for the sake of clickbait, but because I just talked to him and I saw the emotion when he spoke about that time. So moreover, you're in this public eye, Conor's in the public eye, even I to some extent am in the public eye. So we know what it is to get criticized publicly, but the kind of shtick that he gets, guilty or innocent, might go too far at times in the social media sphere and the way they treat people.
Yeah. Social media, the digital space, it's a disease. You know, Twitter is vile, right? You know, I read stuff. I get DMs like I wouldn't even read it out to you. Do you know what I mean? But I can't say it makes me feel down and emotional. I mean, but ultimately, when you're reading negativity, of course, it's going to dampen your mood. It's going to change the way you feel, isn't it? If someone's patting you on the back, and this is an example to parents and kids, encouragement. You know, for me, the best form of motivation is encouragement, you know? So you always want to be pat on the back. You always want to say, you know what, I like that. You're working hard. Keep working hard and good things will happen. You know, you're shit. You're an arsehole. You're a con man. Your family are scum. Blah, blah, you know, like that. And if you keep on taking it in.
Right. When you're super down.
Yeah, of course, even worse.
Right.
Listen, when you're feeling strong and things are going your way, ping, ping, like I said, it's just like bullets bouncing off you. But when you're in a weak moment and you're infiltrating yourself with negativity, that's when, you know, it's a dangerous thing. And with Conor, the worst thing that you can be called as an athlete is a cheat. You know? Like that is to try and gain an advantage in sport, illegally or unfairly, as someone that is, my whole life is based on sport, is the biggest scumbag move out there. Scumbag move. And anyone that takes performance enhancing drugs to improve their physical condition or get an edge in sport, particularly in boxing, is an absolute scumbag. Right? And that's how I feel about people who take drugs and performance enhancing drugs. So and then flip to how I'm backing Conor Benn, right? To a point where that's how much I believe in him. Right? So again, like that's for Conor, he's been accused of that. Scumbag, cheat, like, drug cheat, blah, 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 whatever. And it's just been, he had to come off social media, obviously, because he would have, you know, really been in an even worse place. But like, I just, you know, Twitter, you know, I keep saying I'm going to come off Twitter.
Yeah. So it's also addictive.
Cool, massively addictive. But how much better would your life be?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the way you feel is controlled by what you consume. Right? Isn't it? I mean, ultimately, I know you can feel good and everything, positivity, but what you consume will affect how you feel. If you are reading negativity, and this isn't just about abuse and negativity, this is about reading, scrolling through, watching that. I mean, now when you look at what comes up in your timeline, I mean, the algorithms will drive you crazy, and it won't just be them trying to get you to buy something that you've just talked about, that your voice activation's picked up on your phone. It'll be stuff that they feel is relevant to you. I might be scrolling through. Next thing, it's a fight on a street. Then it's a stabbing in London. Then it's this, and I mean, all that he's doing is going, what is happening to the world? The world is over. Yeah, yeah. If I wake up in the morning, go to the gym, speak to a friend, get some fresh air, read some books, how's your mood going to be then? I mean, it's so stupid, isn't it? The world that we live in now. Well, we are ultimately letting negativity affect our lives. That has nothing. But that's the social media world that we live in. And, you know, like you could do an interview Pete, I'm sure you get abuse and stick and stuff like that. And it's like, if you didn't read it, you wouldn't know.
Right.
Would you? You just think it was a good interview. And off you go.
And I famously can't not read it.
I know, nor can I. But I'm getting close.
Right.
I'm getting close.
Now, you say you've been in this, as you have been, over a decade, and we've seen so much from fighters and, you know, how these things affect just the human beings they are. Would you say that this is the toughest situation that you faced as a promoter with a fighter?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And consistently. You know, other things come out in a day, tomorrow, it's over or not forgotten about, but, you know, this has been brutal, really. Yeah, tested me. But, you know, I'm also a big believer in going through things that lead you to being better at dealing with other things. And also to open up situations in your mind, in your life and path, you know? So, you know, the whole everything happens for a reason, maybe. But definitely everything happens, shapes and molds your decisions and your paths in life. You understand? Mm-hmm. So, like, I know that next time, and there will be a next time, where there's a tough situation, I've been there before. And I'll get through it. Life is about putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. Same as a fighter. You know? You train so hard and so tough that you do sessions where you want to throw up. You do sessions where you can't breathe. You do sessions where you want to quit. And when you get to that position in a fight, you've been there. You've done it. You know, I mean, I'm into ice baths, Rahim, right? And it's the same kind of mentality. You put yourself in an uncomfortable position. When I look at that thing in that ice, I go, I get in there, do my breathing, go in there, 5 minutes, I come out, I feel like I take on the world. I've already done that in my day.
How do you manage it? Like my feet, my bits and bobs?
No, honestly,
I can't.
Try it.
I did. No, those are the problems.
Yeah, honestly, but you overcome it. Yeah. And when you overcome it, I mean, there are so many benefits to cold water therapy. But when you overcome that, and if you put yourself, the first time you get in an ice bath, you go, come out. The second time, I remember the ice bath last time, go in, 30 seconds, a minute and a half. Next thing, I'm doing 5 minutes. And next thing, I'm looking for them in cities. There's one here I went to the other day, right?
You're hooked.
I need it. Badly hooked. But I've done it. I've been there. I know in here how it feels. I knew I overcome it, and I went again. So the next disaster that happens could be tomorrow, could be in 6 months. I've been through 8 months of that with Conor Benn. You can't break me because I've been there. And that's just life. Keep putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. And when you get there, when you get the chance again, and that comes from failing as well. Keep going. I failed. Okay, next time, you know why you failed. You can go again. Failed again. Okay. You keep being in there. And then one day, when you're in that position, even subconsciously, with all the things you've learned over the years, it allows you to walk through that door. So I look at the Conor Benn situation for me personally, and I go, I just know that what I learned in that experience and what I went through in that experience will allow me to deal with something that's coming in my life, or will allow me to make a decision that might change my direction. Or do you understand? It's just life experiences. I feel like you can never look back with regrets. I can't regret what happened because I was out of my control. But I don't look back and say, oh, I wish that never happened. That was horrible. It was horrible. But I know that there's a path that has out of that has arisen. And that's, you know, Conor's a much bigger man of faith than I am, but I'm a believer in that. You know, I do believe that your life maps out through various different paths and circumstances, and this is just one of them.
And before we leave this Conor Benn issue, I asked him if he thought he was unlucky or if this thing was personal. And I asked that because Amir Khan was raised. And, you know, it seems like a very similar situation handled very differently. What do you make of the comparison between the two ways these issues have been dealt with?
Amir Khan was a retired fighter, so he's not trying to get back in the ring. So it's quite straightforward. I don't think Amir Khan cheated, if I'm honest. I think they did VADA testing through that camp. I think I don't believe he would pass those tests and fail a test on fight night. Like, not being funny, no one fails a test on fight night. Actually, if you fail a test on fight night, I think you're more likely not to be cheating, right? and you know, I think this is a actual problem moving forward. But ultimately, as a fighter, you're responsible, and that's the problem Conor has. You know, I don't believe at all he ever took anything knowingly or intentionally cheated in this situation. But if it's in your body, unfortunately, and that was the same with Amir Khan. But Amir Khan was different because Amir Khan was retired. And he could come out and he could say, yeah, no, I've never cheated in my life. And I accept the ban even though I'm a retired fighter and don't worry about it. Whereas, you know, Conor ultimately hasn't been banned. WBC have reinstated in the rankings. Now he's going through the UCAD situation. Now,
before we end up with 1,000 comments on this one, you've got to explain if you're caught on fight night, how could that mean that you're more likely to not be cheating?
Because I think people who cheat calculated. And fights at that level, it's not like, you know, Amir Khan's going to take something on fight night that, I mean, again, like when Conor Benn asked for VADA testing for the Eubank fight, like he knew there's no escape. Like if you're cheating, I know people talk about, yeah, you can do this and master. He's getting tested by UCAD, WBC, VADA, everything. So I just feel like, and I think this is quite a common perception, drug tests on the night of the fight are actually the irrelevant part of the testing process. Where you want to get people is 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks out from the fight. Do you know what I mean? Right. Because anyone that is cheating is doing so at a time where they think they won't, not on fight night. You know you're getting tested on fight night. What has he done? If he would have he probably had a test a week before that with VADA and passed. So he's saying on the day of the fight, he took something. That can't have a physical benefit. I mean, I'm not Victor Conte, you know, but I just feel like, I don't know. I'd be surprised if Amir Khan cheated, in all honesty.
If I got to turn your attention quickly to Saudi, which is obviously the super night that everyone dreams of, a final four of heavyweight supremacy. And you've said it. Joshua's in. Wilder's saying he's in. We know Usyk's in. But no one's talking about Tyson Fury and whether or not he's in.
He's probably the one that he's probably going to be the last one in, isn't he? But when we say we're in for the concept of fighting Deontay Wilder. We have dealt with skills challenge in Saudi Arabia various times. We've done 2 fights there. They know the money that was paid to Joshua for those 2 fights. And we have every faith that it will be quite straightforward for us to agree a deal. I can't speak on other people's behalves. I understand that if there's no Usyk against Fury, there's still Wilder against Joshua. It's not like...
So that fight happens even if it's not both fights.
On behalf of Skills Challenge and Prince Khalid, but they want Joshua Wilder. So if they can't do Usyk Fury, I think they give up on that and they just do Joshua against Wilder. But my plan is to get that fight and that deal cemented and then work backwards from there regarding the the first week of August fight. And we'll see what happens.
Being that we could potentially be looking at 4 different promoters working together on one night, is there a world in which the 3 who seem to be good with this super night of boxing come to bear on a Tyson Fury?
Yeah, but the good thing about this fight is it's Saudi negotiating with the individual parties. Where sometimes you have a breakdown is the promoters negotiating between themselves.
Yeah.
So here, Skills Challenge will do individual deals with the 4 parties. Wilder doesn't have a promoter. AJ's with us. Usyk's with his own promotional company with Alex Krasuk. Right. And Fury's with Bob Arum and Queensbury. So no one's getting involved.
But it's kind of like when the government wants to buy your house and everybody on the block's got to sell or nobody gets the money. Don't the 3 of you come to I think Bob?
I'm not focused on that. I want to say, I believe Deontay Wilder wants to fight. I think they can do a deal with him. Let's do our deal. Don't worry about it. We can't deal with the others. If they don't want to fight, we'll fight. But Joshua wants the Wilder fight, and that's what we hope will happen.
And lastly, Amanda Serrano has just announced that she's fighting August 5th. Obviously, Katie Taylor Serrano in Ireland was the fight that everybody wanted and you wanted to make. Now it looks like either Katie's going to have to wait on Amanda, or is this rematch likely now to happen?
Yeah, I'm quite, look, I promoted Serrano Hardy. Is this the 3rd time they're fought or 2nd time? Like 3 years ago, it was a really good fight. I mean, I feel like, Heather's been a fantastic servant to the sport. We approached her recently about fighting Sky Nicholson on February the 4th at the Garden. She didn't want to make featherweight. I think this fight is at featherweight. I'm glad that Heather's getting a good shot and a payday. I think she's been a great servant to female boxing. Amanda wasn't available for May 20 through injury. She had a tough fight against Cruz, but her interim fight is Heather Hardy. Katie Taylor's interim fight is Chantel Cameron. It's a really, really tough fight. But if Katie gets through, if Amanda gets through, I do expect to see round 2 later in the year, and it'd be a great occasion. But firstly, in Ireland on May 20th, that's a very tough fight. Katie Taylor against Chantel Cameron. So we'll see what happens there first in Dublin.
Well, I was disappointed that I didn't get to go to Dublin for the Amanda Serrano-Taylor fight, but I'm going to hold out, and we'll be in Dublin hopefully someday soon for that super fight. That rematch is eagerly awaited. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico.